Welcome to another edition of Believe in Giants. Bob Papa with two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. Training camp officially practices start on Wednesday, the 26th. Everything's ramped up. Rookies have been around, and Saquon Barkley is going to have to play under the franchise tag. We don't expect to see him at training camp, but I know you got a lot to get off your chest here.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I guess I'm speaking directly but indirectly to Saquon Barkley. I don't know what happened in his contract talks. I don't know what was on the table, what's not. I just know where you are right now. You are on a franchise tag. I am saying to you, Barkley, that you have more value than you have leverage. And the only way that your value and your brand value stays high is to do the game that you love, that you're great at, right? The system is what has suppressed running back salaries. He's not alone. He's got Josh Jacobs, the most productive back in the football in the NFL last year, sitting at home. Dalvin Cook, one of the most productive backs. And then there's Saquon Barkley. Sitting out doesn't send a message. It won't change the system. You have a window, a career window of earnings as a football player and production. And you're not going to send a message to the team because the NFL's been around for 100 years. Players come and go. Will they miss you? Yes. Are you their most, or I would say you're their most valuable player? So know that. But that value doesn't give you the leverage against a system that has suppressed running backs. So I'm saying to you, and I would say this to my sons, don't be a principled fool. You have principles.
My dad said that to me too at some point in time in my life.
Yeah, I mean, don't be a principled fool. And I say that because you could sit at home and nobody's paying the price for it. The league, the games are going to start on time, right? Training camp won't stop because you're not there. You're a great football player. You love the game. Don't let it take that away from you. Come in with your integrity intact and be enthusiastic. Be angry. You should be angry. But the one thing that you have to realize, in this town, there are just three marketable current athletes: Joe Judge, Aaron Rodgers, and Saquon Barkley. No one else.
You mean Aaron Judge?
I'm sorry. Yeah, not Joe Judge. Aaron Judge. God, no. Joe Judge is not marketable. But it's three. It's Aaron, and Saquon, right? This town loves you. Football provides you an opportunity, right? So you decided to, however the circumstances got you here, that you're playing on a franchise tag, that did not diminish your value. You were deleveraged by a system in football that didn't value backs, but it did not devalue you as a football player and as a brand. And what I'm going to tell you now, and this is, instead of being in a state of emotion and angry, what you need to do is have a conversation with your agent and say, okay, I left $2-3 million a year on the table, right? You have your agent, and I'm going to give you a name. You and your agent should go meet with Donnie Deutsch. Donnie Deutsch is a branding genius. Play the long game. Allow the Giants may not be writing that extra $2 million check, but they can allow you to get that money back. Play the long game because you are a marketable athlete. And the only way you can maximize your value as a New York Giant, because as a Cleveland Brown or as a Seattle Seahawk, you don't have that value in those markets. In this market and beyond this market, you've got value as the star great running back of the New York Giants. So you can take a short-sighted look at this, and the only person that this is going to hurt career-wise as a football player is you if you sit out. So come in with your integrity intact. Come in enthusiastic about a game you love to play. You can play it for yourself, right? Just be great at it. You don't have to talk to anybody. Just be great and smile at it because you're great and you love the game. And this game provides you with all the ancillary things that not many people in this town that's playing sports can have. And that's your long game. The system suppressed your salary, right? And I don't know, and I don't want to know where you were in contract talks and how they broke down. I could care less, right? But I'm talking about the kid who's got a great smile, who's charismatic, and is a fucking great football player.
And is beloved. I mean, he's beloved.
Yes.
You're 100% right. If you think about, I mean, look, the Knicks and Nets have some fantastic players.
No, this is no knock on any athlete, but I'm just telling the facts are what they are.
Correct.
There's three.
Right.
Three in this town.
Because if I say, Judge, Rodgers, and Barkley, or Saquon and Aaron, every sports fan knows who I'm talking about. Yep. There's no confusion. Like, they are above.
Yep.
Listen.
Being a Giant affords you that. Being a Seattle Seahawk doesn't. Now, you got $10 million guaranteed. Here's the other thing. The longer you sit out, if you miss games, that $10 million is gone too. The money that was on the table, however you got to this $10 million tag, show up, be enthusiastic, come in with your integrity intact, right?
Because you still are getting paid. At the end of the day, once you sign the tender, they're on the hook for $10 million for one season for you.
Right. But
they're not asking you to work for free.
Right. But the thing is, Bob, and I know there's a lot of emotion in this, but you've got to take your football hat, sit it next to you on the couch, and put a business hat on and say, how can I leverage? How can I make the best of this situation? You are afforded that. Josh Jacobs isn't. Dalvin Cook isn't. They're not afforded the same thing that you are. They're in places right now where teams didn't love them, where they were not wanted, right? Here's a team, forget the management aspect of it, a fan base, a coaching staff that wants you, that love you. Can they pay you more? I wish they would have. I was rooting for you. I never root against a player making as much, you're worth as much as you can get. Let me just say that, right? But don't be a principled fool. Don't hurt your brand in the process of trying to make a statement or set a precedent, right? It was different when Emmitt Smith did it. He had just come off the Super Bowl and they were a run-centric team, right? It was different when Eric Dickerson did it twice because he was the NFL at the time. It was all quarterbacks and Eric Dickerson. Now you're in a different league. You're in a different time. Let the people who have nothing to lose fight this battle for you. Let the new executive director of the NFL Players Association fight this battle for you. Because as much as these people in the press are saying, yeah, you need the money. Think back when you tweeted out when you were injured. and you told everybody to stay on their side, anybody that's not with you, those are some of the same people. So they're doing what's in their best interest, talking about you, talking about the team, talking about your dissatisfaction with your contract. It just creates viewers for them. No different than the podcast you just went on and you were very candid and said some things. They put it out. Maybe after you said them, maybe you probably should have rephrased them. I don't know, right? But they do what's in their best interest. Saquon Barkley is a great fucking football player. You love sports. You've always loved football. You've always been great at it. Don't devalue the Saquon Barkley brand. Play the long game. Oh, you missed out on whatever it is. You are where you are at this stage of the franchise tag, right? So whatever the other numbers were, and however you got to the point where you said, I don't want those, I want these, well, don't be mad. Play the long game. Leverage your brand. You have value. Now use your leverage. And that's up to you and your representatives to go make that happen, because people love you in this town. And it's only 3 of y'all. And I will give you, this is free advice, and I'm sure he'll take your call because you're fucking Saquon Barkley. Call Donnie Deutsch. He will tell you how to leverage your brand and your value. Because Donnie doesn't deal with just anybody, right? He's built some of the biggest companies and marketed some of the biggest brands in the world. You're one of those. Get into a mindset that football is what you love. Football affords you to do a lot of different things. So you had a business dealing that didn't go your way. Make it go your way. That brand is something that you can leverage with your value as a football player.
And there's no value, and the value is diminished if he's not playing.
Correct.
And if he's not playing at a high level.
Correct. So what I'm saying to you, your integrity is intact. You love this game. Even if you play it angry, it's mutually beneficial to your career as a football player and your value as a brand. Just be productive. Come in and be productive. You can't be mad. Don't walk in, because right now, you're not sending a message to anybody. They're going to play the season and they'll figure it out without you, right? So the sooner you get in to get back to the guy who loves the sport, the guy who always smiles, the guy who's fucking great football player, number one, but I'm not advocating on behalf of a team. I'm advocating on your behalf, because I wanted you to get all your money.
And there's nothing you can do about it. Right now
it's set in stone.
Right. And the collective bargaining agreement is set through 2030. This has been collectively bargained. I know these top running backs had a Zoom this weekend. How are we going to change the system? People say this has to be fixed. It's economics. It's economics 101, in the sense that teams will carry 4 running backs, 5 running backs, and half the time, a bunch of the guys on the roster are guys on rookie deals, undrafted free agents, free agent contracts. And there's been so many cautionary tales of running backs that have signed long-term big money deals and can't fulfill the contract. So teams have decided to take a different route on what they want to pay the position.
And you might be different, but here's the thing. They don't get emotional like the players do. They will hide behind analytics if it's in their best interest. If they say, well, at age 25, everything it plateaus, and then by age 28, it starts to do this, well, you're 25. And they'll just keep throwing those numbers in your face, and you can keep proving them wrong, and they'll just keep saying, well, it's going to happen. Well, it's going to happen. We can't pay you this month. You're beyond a football player, Saquon Barkley. You have value. You are the team's most valuable player, but you're stuck on a $10 million tag, sitting at home, doesn't change that. It may change you as a player, right? Your integrity is intact. Come and do the thing that you love to do. Whenever you decide to do it, but just know it becomes diminishing returns to your brand value if you're not as effective. Because though the Giants, like I said, I don't know what the contract situations were. A lot of things been out there, but I know where you are right now. And you can't change yesterday, and you can't impact tomorrow. You can do today. You can make up your mind today that I'm a great football player. I'm going to go do what I love, and the Giants are going to pay for it. How are the Giants going to pay for it? Because they're going to allow your brand to flourish, that you can make that money where 98% of the running backs in this league can't do what you do in this town.
No, in New York affords a new, if you're playing in New York and the team has success like they had last year, the sky's the limit of what a Donnie Deutsch or somebody can do for you off the field.
Donnie Deutsch would be the guy. And
or anybody.
He may not do it for you, but he will give you great advice. But here's the thing. You don't have to believe me. Just look at the people who walk through that door and some of the things that they're doing right now. Okay, some of the great Giant football players that have come through that door and the opportunities that they're afforded. Yeah, you can do things in other towns, right? But they love you here. You are a New York Giant. You are a guy who was drafted by the team. You're not parachuting into another town now at age 25 saying, hey, I'm Saquon Barkley, I'm a brand, and I need to get my feet on. Ask Russell Wilson how that's going, right? They didn't love him in Denver that first year like they did his whole career in Seattle.
So now it's a little bit of a delicate balance too, right? Because if I'm him, right, you're not necessarily going to sign the franchise tender tomorrow. You're not going to. You think he should be there for camp?
Because that's what he does. Let the people see your smile. Right now, all they've seen is the unhappy Saquon Barkley. Let the people see your smile. Let your teammates see your smile. Even, like I said, even if you run angry, smile when you get off, because that's your value. You've got something that nobody else has. You should be in camp with your brothers. You should hit the ground running. Don't look, all that working out you've done to get ready for the season, don't let that dissipate, which I know you'll continue to work, but mentality-wise, mentally, that'll start to dissipate, because then you start to let all the other ego things creep in. Fuck them, fuck my, all that. You could say all of that. You thought it, right? The longer you sit away from them, the more that thought, even if you said you could have said this, right? It came out. So it's a thought. Don't let that thought anchor. Get in there with your guys. They'll take care of you.
Well, and you want to hit the ground running when the season starts. I mean, Carl, because you're from a different era when the players had zero leverage.
Oh,
right.
Let me tell you, Saquon, here's what you got: a $10 million floor, right? And I hate to use back in the day when I played, but this is how thinking has changed. You are afforded a floor of $10 million. I held out 2 training camps, full training camps. You know why? Because number one, I had a general manager who did not pick up the phone until the first day of training camp. So he officially made me a holdout. I didn't hold out. And from that moment he picked up the phone, it was a slow walk until almost the first game of the season. And here's the thing. There was no floor. I didn't have a tag set to sign. He could offer me way below value and say, take it or leave it. So it's different.
And you had no recourse. If you said no, it's not as if there was a recourse for you. The team was not letting go of the player.
Right. And then at that point, you just had to pray that the rabbit got the gun, somebody got hurt, and they needed to get you in there. Right. Because that's when teams had all the leverage. You got a $10 million stopgap, and you can make up that money by being a New York Giant, you can't by sitting out. It's diminishing returns. And I would just say from a mentality standpoint, and I know you're a strong-willed person and you're going to work out, right? But don't let negative thoughts take hold. Come in, have a conversation with Joe and whoever you need, with Dave's and whoever, and say, look, I want to come in, but I want to be on the limited rotation until I can, get myself where I need to be. Sitting at home, working out and going back home, working out and going back home, and then talking to your teammates, getting an update on what's going on in camp. That's not you. You're a great football player. You're a fun kid.
Well,
Go have fun.
It also would give him leverage moving forward to have the best season he can possibly have, get himself in game shape as you get ready for the start of the season by not going to play in any preseason games, but bumping around in practice whenever they have those, whatever the live segments are or whatever, so that he can pick up where he left off from last year and put up another great season. And then, okay, we'll start this all over again next off season. But now you've created another level of value.
Well, yes. And here's the thing. Have a great year. And the team always has leverage where they say we can franchise him again if he's great and we can keep his numbers down, which I don't think that's the incentive here. But maybe there's an agreement that you guys can come to. Hey, I come in, I sign this tag. I don't want to be franchised next year. Or if you feel like you have to franchise me, trade me. Right? There's still some things you can do, but your value is being there and being great, being the great football player you are. Because if you come late and you twist an ankle, and it may set you out for a week, you know what they're going to say? See, told you, running backs get hurt, running backs hurt. Or you could be there with $10 million and everybody knows your value to the team, and it lifts everyone. And it lifts the fan base and the people that are supporting you. So listen, I love you, Saquon. But I'm going to say this as an uncle, as a brother, as a father figure, as someone who would say it to their child. Don't be a principled fool. Play the long game. Take the player emotional hat off, set it next to you, and put your long game hat on. Because your value, your leverage is down because of a system, but your value has not been diminished. Don't do it by sitting at home. Play the long game, huddle up with your people. Okay, well, this is what I'm making on the football field. My goal was to make $13 million this year, or my goal was to make whatever the number was. Tell your people to go get it and be smart about it, because it's only 3 of you in this town. And you're in a unique position. Don't devalue your brand. You're not an angry kid. You love sports, you love football, and you're charismatic, and you're a fun kid. Don't let a negotiation suck the life out of that kid, right? It's business. It ain't personal. So when in business, you just got to find a way to adapt. Just like in football. One hole closes, you adapt and you cut to another one, right? You find a guy in the hole, you juke and you make another move. Do that in business, because that's the aspect of it that you just walked into that you never thought that you would, because you've been great your whole life and you've been able to get what you needed. But now it's business. So we know you can play football. We know you're the most valuable player on that team, but you've been leveraged by a system. No, it doesn't matter how many conference calls you have. And it ain't fucking fair. I can tell you right now, it ain't. But none of these owners, all 32 of them, they will be in lockstep in saying, we will not be emotional and start overpaying. And the system says they don't have to. So.
Right, they're overpaying at other positions.
When the system says they don't have to, then they ain't going to do those either. Trust me. In the quarterback position, keeps going up and up. But the more they run quarterbacks and the more quarterbacks get hurt, and it's attributed, losses are attributed to when guys are not on the field, you'll start to see those numbers come down too. So, but that's a conversation for a different time. The time is now for you to keep your mindset of the kid that's been working out, trying to build on the year that he had. Come in and let your value stay high. Like I said, system is suppressed, so you don't have leverage, but you've got value, and you need to leverage that value.
So training camp practices start on Wednesday. What are some of the things that you're anxious to see sort of unfold? Obviously, this inside linebacker with Jared Davis being put on injured reserve, I think they had a lot of expectations for him. What are some of the things that you're kind of anxious to see unfold here when training camp practices start this week?
Aside from excited to see Saquon Barkley show up, the other thing, just take a note. And we'll get into the rest of training camp, but look at the amount of wide receivers on this roster.
15 of them.
You got 15 wide receivers on this roster, and you got 4 running backs. Right? So that just tells you where this league is going. But I want to see the defensive back position, and I want to see the wide receiver position, because that's where it's going to be a great deal of competition. And those are the things I'm going to watch for, and I'll develop more of a focus from week to week, because we know the positions that needed to improve. Number 1 was linebacker. Number 2 was wide receiver. So we'll see how that goes. I want to see Azeez Ojulari. I want to see how well he does. If he can keep his mental state injury free, because he will book in with Kayvon Thibodeau, and it will be a pretty good thing to see. So quarterback has a lot of tools. He's made his contract ascension into, the high-paid franchise number. Now it's time for him to utilize the tools that they've given him, and I'm telling you, they are stacking the deck. They're stacking the deck for this quarterback. And listen, they ain't married to him either. In 2 years, they could probably get out of that deal. So they want to find out. They knew he can play. Now they want to find out with talent how much better he can be. And the wide receiver room is going to be crowded. They may have to put chairs in the hallway. They got so many receivers in the room. And it's going to be a lot of competition.
Yeah, I mean, and they got a lot of slot kind of guys and all this other stuff. And Beasley they just added, which when you think about, the head coach and the offensive coordinator and where they've come from, utilization of players, utilization of the wide receivers in the running game. We don't know what Wan'Dale Robinson's health status is at this point, so they've got a lot of fill in the blanks. I'm really anxious to see what Colin Johnson looks like, because he was looking quite nicely, playing pretty well last year. Yeah. And he had that freak Achilles non-contact and practice injury. Like to see how he comes back. And
Isaiah Hodgins was probably one of their biggest contributors down the stretch. He was their most consistent because he's the best receiver on the field at times. So, yeah, I mean, listen, this is going to be an interesting camp, because this is the camp they take the next step. There are no perfect scenarios in football, so you knew something was going to show up early. And, this contract talk is it right now. But we'll see what happens. They are loading, they're stacking the deck for the quarterback, so he's going to have to show. He showed what he could do with less. Now he's got to show what he does with more. And hopefully their most valuable player comes in sooner than later with, like I said, his integrity is intact. Don't diminish it. They need you. You need them. Football is what you love doing. Football has afforded you so much. Don't be a principled fool.
So you think, just in wrapping up here, so you believe that, everybody says, all right, you won't see Barkley for training camp. The way this normally plays out is the guy signs the franchise tag a week before the season, somewhere in that time, to get the full salary, to avoid being fined, to make you can't get fined unless you sign it. But once you sign it, but you don't want to see him easing into the season. You want to see him. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but at some point during this training camp, Carl Banks would like to see him sign it. Just get in there, get yourself game ready so that there's no excuses when week 1 of the season comes.
Again, I'm playing the long game, Bob. If I got a deal on the table, right, and nothing's going to change about that deal other than my preparedness to execute it, the longer I sit back and wait, the less prepared I am to execute a deal or take advantage of a market that's there for me. You can say, well, I can always get to it. Well, no, you can get to it by being in the right, as a football player, in the right frame of mind, right? Being around the people, because you're going to sit at home. You're not going to turn your phone off. You want to keep into contact with your brothers and want to know what's going on. Be in the room. Bring your energy to the room because your number is not going to change. So enthusiastically go about it. And sitting at home is not sending a message. Sitting at home allows you to read about everybody else that's doing well in camp. And all that's going to do is change your mindset. Come in, again, use the Giants to keep your value high. Simple as that. You're not everybody else. These situations where guys, they're going to sit at home and they'll show up for week 1. You're different. You're different in the respect that there is brand value to you being in that uniform, and giving yourself a chance to make the other monies that are not afforded other people, right? Whatever money, like I said, I don't know the ins and outs of your contract, but your people should now say, you should challenge your people. Now, this is what I wanted in football. I didn't get that, right? Now go make it up. This is what I want. I want to make a total of X amount of dollars in football year 2023-20 and be into the playoffs. This is my goal. You guys go make that happen. And the only way that happens is your value stays high, that people see the enthusiastic, non-angry, fuck my teammates, fuck my team, I'm scrubbing you off my Instagram. And by the way, scrubbing your team, it means nothing. It means nothing. It just shows you're the one who's angry, right? Well, it is what it is. And plus, Saquon, you're not even on social media enough to you shouldn't even care, right? So just listen, my guy. With love, I say this. Come in, your integrity is intact. Be enthusiastic about the game you love. Be around the people that energize you, right? Because this time of year, your clock ticks, your football clock ticks, and you want to be on the field. Nothing changes in your salary. So sitting out and not signing a tag, that diminishes your value. I'm not telling you when you should do this, but the sooner you do, the better off that charismatic kid who loves the game of football will be. And I like I said, I advocated for you to get as much as you could get. And I will never, ever go against a player wanting to get as much money as he can, because I've been there. But
without a franchise tag.
Without a franchise tag and without a floor. So I'm just saying it is what it is now, as you would say. Nothing's going to change. So the only thing that can change now is your value, right? Your value stays high and you get the opportunity to use this relationship with the Giants to continue to build the things and to get where you need to be financially. And I'm talking long game. I ain't talking about what's on that New York Giants contract. I'm talking about the things that only you, Aaron, and Aaron can do at this point. And that's a fact.
Yeah, that is a fact. Rodgers, Judge, and Saquon.
Say those names, everybody know them.
Everybody knows who you're talking about. All right,
Yep.
Carl. We'll do this once practices start.
Yep.
We get rolling. We'll start breaking down the team. But how do we like to end it?
Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell Saquon, do not be a principled fool.
Enough said. You've been watching Believe in Giants.